Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Turnover on Downs. I am your host, Jake Dom, and joining me as he does every episode is my friend Kyle. How are you doing today, Kyle?
Not too bad. Thanks for having me on as always, Jake.
Oh, no problem. So what I did want to talk about, first things first, we'll get to our performance of the week of prediction. So I think we're getting to the point of the season where everyone's getting defined. We know who the contenders are, and we know who the pretenders are. So obviously, we know the Bills are bad. We know the Rams are good. Chiefs are good, and so on and so forth. But I kind of want to talk to you about those fringe teams. So what I have right here is I have a list of teams, and I have whether if I think they're a contender or a pretender going in the playoffs. So what I'm going to do for you, Kyle, is I'm going to name you a team and tell you their record, and I want you to tell me if they're a contender or pretender, okay?
All right, sounds good.
All right, so the first team I want to talk about is a team that everyone was a little high on, but they are down on for a few weeks now. The Cincinnati Bengals. They sit at 5-3. What do you think they are?
I think they're kind of a pretender at this point in the season. They did get off to that hot start, but a couple rough weeks in a row, including getting blown out by Kansas City. And obviously Kansas City is one of the best teams in the league, but I think they lost by like 20 plus, into maybe even 30. So I'm going to say that they're a pretender. I just don't think they have all the pieces there. They got some offensive and some defensive pieces, but to really compete with some of these top of the league teams, I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, I kind of had it for the same reasons you did. I did have them as a pretender. If you look at their schedule, they only really beat Atlanta, and they're only 4-4 this season. They lost to Carolina, Pittsburgh, and Kansas City. So the only playoff teams they really played, they have lost to. So yeah, I'm going to agree with you and say they're a contender. A pretender, I'm sorry. So the next team I want to talk about is the LA Chargers. They're currently sitting at 6-2, second in the AFC West. What do you think they are?
I definitely think that they're a contender. They're definitely top three, I would say, top 3 or 4 in the AFC. Really good offense, a lot of good pieces. Melvin Gordon, obviously Rivers is good as always. Keenan Allen, and then their defense has looked great for the majority of the season. And at 6-2, they've only lost to the Rams because the Rams and the Chiefs.
Yep, Rams and the Chiefs.
So, yeah, the two of the best teams in the league. So I definitely think that they can make a run here and go for a deep run in the playoffs.
So shifting gears here, I did want to go to the NFC. So the Philadelphia Eagles, the defending Super Bowl champs, they're currently sitting at 4-4, second in the NFC East. They have been playing better the last couple weeks. I know I have them as a contender just because they did win the Super Bowl last year. A lot of those same pieces are still in place. So what do you have them as?
This is a little bit of a harder one. I'm going to go say that they are a contender, kind of for the same reasons. They did win the Super Bowl last year, and they have really that whole same team. So I think once they shake off kind of a little bit of the hangover, I think they'll be back. Carson Wentz, he's just getting better and better. And then they got Golden Tate on the offense, which is really going to open things up for everybody else. Zach Ertz and Alshon Jeffrey. So I just think they're going to keep on getting better. They're going to start winning a couple in the row, and they're going to take that NFC East.
Oh, right. Well, I kind of want to ask a two-part question here. The NFC North is in a little bit of a weird state. We got Chicago at 5-3, Minnesota at 5-3-1, and then the Green Bay and Lions rounded out. Which one out of Chicago and Minnesota are you more scared of in the playoffs, if either of them?
Ooh, that's actually a pretty good one. I'm definitely going to lean more towards the Vikings just because they have that history of winning. They did really well last year, and they, had Case Keenum. So, obviously a big upgrade with Kirk Cousins at QB. But I definitely respect the Bears' defense, and Trubisky's kind of rounding into form. I think he's going to be a good quarterback, but I would lean more towards the Vikings as far as who I think will go farther, who I'd least want to play.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you there with the Vikings. I think that Kirk Cousins is just flat out, he's a better quarterback than Trubisky. And when playoffs, especially in the playoffs, you need that quarterback and they can go get you that win. And I don't know if Cousins is it, but I don't think Trubisky, at least at this point in his career, is definitely not it. So the last team I want to talk to you about is the Houston Texans. This is a little bit of an odd one because more than likely they are bound to win the AFC South. But I know me personally, I have them as a contender. I mean, a pretender. What about you, Kyle?
Yeah, I'm going to go pretender in that one as well. I do agree with you. I think they will win that AFC South just because that's such a weak division again. And, Deshaun Watson, that offense has been doing great things, but they just have too many holes. I wouldn't believe them to, really beat anybody else in that AFC besides maybe the second wild card, I guess, depending on who it is. We'll see later on. But, pretender for sure.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you there. They are riding a 6-game winning streak, so I'm not trying to take that away from them. But if you look at who they beat, you got the Colts, the Cowboys, the Bills, the Jaguars, Miami, and Denver. Those are all non-playoff teams, and they're all pretty winnable games. If you look at the three teams they did lose to, they lost to Tennessee, the Giants, and New England. New England, obviously they're probably going to lose that one, but to lose the Giants at home, even in Week 3, just shows you're not a very good football team. And then to barely squeak one out this week over the Broncos is just, I just expect more from them, and I definitely think they're a pretender. But I think that's enough for that. I think we're going to go right into our performances of the week. Who'd you have this week, Kyle?
This week I went with the wide receiver from the Saints. They had a really good offensive showing all in all. Michael Thomas, he had 12 receptions, 211 yards, which is insane. Averaged more than 17 yards a catch. And then he had that one touchdown grab as well. I think that was that 72-yard kind of bomb.
To seal it at the end.
Yep, yeah. So that's who I went with. I had a great game all around this week.
Yeah, no, he definitely played good, over 200 yards receiving. He was just spectacular against that Rams secondary. They just couldn't seem to slow down anyone on that Saints offense down. Obviously, they put up 45 points. I'm going to stick to the offensive side of the ball this week. I'm going to go with Kareem Hunt. Everyone always talks about Patrick Mahomes, but Kareem Hunt can play, and I feel like he doesn't get the total respect he deserves. He has 17 rushes for 91 yards and 2 TDs, and not to mention additional touchdown through the air on a 50-yard reception. So I just think that he's a very undervalued. There's just so much talent on that Chiefs offense, and it's easy to overlook some people, but I just feel like he definitely deserved a shout out at the performance he had this week. But I think we're going to get right into the games from this week. And, I think we should go right back to probably the best game of this past week. The Rams at New Orleans. The Rams go down there, end up getting their first loss, lose 35-45. Saints are now on a 7-game winning streak. And as you mentioned, Michael Thomas, he did his thing. Kamara did his thing, 82 yards, 2 TDs, not to mention additional TD through receiving. Drew Brees was his typical self. 346 yards, 4 touchdowns, and no interceptions. I do think the Rams did play pretty well. Gurley, he did have a little bit, 13 rushes for 68 yards and TD. That's not really enough for Gurley, so he needs to play a little bit better. But all in all, I thought the Rams did look really good, and New Orleans even looked better. What did you think of this game?
I was actually kind of surprised. The Rams did fall behind by quite a few points early, but then they rallied. They came back, and they made it a really tight game at the end. I think both sides played well. I think we just saw kind of the king of the NFC. That game, if it was in LA, it might have kind of swapped, but I really kind of believe in New Orleans. I think they're the superior team in the NFC, and I think they're going to keep on rolling.
Yeah, and I did see a stat that just kind of blew me away. So when Todd Gurley, since Sean McVay's taken over the Rams, has gotten 17 or less touches, they are 5-6. And once he gets 17 or more touches, they're actually undefeated. And he only did have 13 attempts in this game. I'm not trying to tell McVay how to coach his team. Obviously, he knows way, way, way more than I ever will about football. But I don't know how you only give Gurley 13 touches, especially with that offense on the other side of the ball. I think you just got to feed him the ball a little bit more and try to bleed some of that clock to keep the ball out of Drew Brees' hands. Because even that one less possession, that could have been what they needed, was that one less touchdown. So, yeah, all in all, I think I did want to give a little shout out to Goff. I think this was arguably his maybe not his best. I know he had that big explosion game week 2. But all in all, he looked good, and I think this is one of the better-looking games, even in a loss this season. So, but let's go to a team that actually plays the Rams next week. Seattle did not have had about as tough a week as the Rams did. The Chargers came into town. They ended up winning 25-17. Rivers did his thing, 228 yards, 2 TDs. Gordon was the big piece here, 16 rushes for 113 yards and a TD on the day. What do you think of Charger performance?
I thought they played really well. Dominated a Seattle team that looked good the previous week. And that they always play hard at home. And obviously Russell Wilson, so he'll do what he has to pull out games. But kind of an all around really good performance there. Their offense was moving, their defense, held Seattle just to 17 points, really impressive there. I'm so excited about those Chargers moving forward.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, Chargers are on a 5-game win streak. And they're at Oakland next week. Then they go play Denver, and then they play Arizona. So this team, you can easily turn around. This team is all of a sudden 9-2, and they're right there in the contention for the AFC. So I'm excited to see where they go. Hopefully that Seattle can turn around a little bit. Russell Wilson did play pretty well though, outside that interception that cost him late. But all in all, a good game for the Chargers. So let's go into an NFC North game. Detroit went to Minnesota, and I think me and you both took Detroit. I think it was definitely our bias taking into account. Minnesota just dominated us. Stafford, he was 25 for 36, 200 yards, but no touchdowns. He was sacked 10 times, which is just unacceptable. Kerryon Johnson couldn't get it going. Yeah, all in all, Dalvin Cook finally came back. He had 10 rushes for 89 yards. He looked good. And as I mentioned, the 10 sacks, Hunter, the DN for the Vikings, did have 3.5 of those. So, yeah, all in all, he played pretty well. But the whole Vikings team did. And I don't know what's next in Detroit, but hopefully we don't look like that again. But what do you think of our performance?
So that Detroit game was pretty hard to watch. Not a whole lot went right for us. We were just completely dominated, really, on both sides of the ball. I guess the one bright side, we did keep Kirk Cousins only 164 yards, and we did pick him off once, so that wasn't bad. But could not get anything going on the offense, and it's really kind of hard to when Stafford gets sacked 10 times. So. Just kind of a embarrassing performance there on the road against a good Minnesota team. So hopefully we'll bounce back there, but that might be the shape of things to come for the season, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think Golden Tate obviously not being there did play a huge factor in our offense, and just kind of I think everyone just seemed a little out of place almost. I think that was a big part of it. Riddick did see a little bit more touches, so. We'll definitely have to kind of look at that situation going forward in the season. But, the way the NFC is shaping out, our playoff chances are definitely dwindling unless we can go on a run here to end the season. But let's go to a team that's definitely not on a way more hot streak than us. The Pittsburgh Steelers. They're 5-1 in their last 6, currently riding a 4-game win streak. They go versus their rival in Baltimore. They go down there and win 23-16. What do you think of their performance, Kyle?
Pittsburgh stays hot. And I kind of predicted it. They started off pretty slow, but obviously you can never count that offense out. with all those weapons that they have, even without, even with James Conner stepping in. But yeah, Baltimore just hasn't looked the same. Their defense really hasn't been as good, and then they just cannot get anything going on the offense. Flacco played pretty average, 209 yards, no touchdowns, but no picks either. So, they need to kind of figure out going forward what they can do to fix that offensive problem that they've had in the last couple of weeks.
And, I think that does bring me into my point is I think it's Lamar Jackson time in Baltimore. I don't see why you don't do it. You're heading into a bye week. You're 1-4 in your last 5. Your playoff chances are just slipping out of your fingers. Your team needs a spark. And Flacco has not looked he looked okay, but he hasn't looked impressive over the last couple weeks. So, especially if you're John Harbaugh, I'm sure everyone's seen the rumors that he might be on his way out of Baltimore. And he's basically coaching for his job at this point if he does want to stay there. And I just don't know why you wouldn't throw the young guy in. The worst thing that happens is he played awful and you guys keep losing, but I can't imagine it like the offense being much worse or much stagnant now.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely agree with that. I hope that they do start to use Jackson, and I hope he does well for, Baltimore's sake.
So what's going on in the last game that we talked about last week is Green Bay at New England. Everyone's hyping up this matchup all week long, Brady versus Rodgers. And Brady does come out on top 31-17. Probably wasn't the game that everyone was expecting. But all in all, Tom Brady did play pretty well. White played well too. He had 2 TDs on the day, even though he only rushed for 32 yards. Josh Gordon, 130 yards receiving and a touchdown. So, yeah, all in all, really good performance by New England. Also, you had Patterson stepping up. But, he'd been known as a wide receiver and return man. The Patriots found a way to use him at running back, and he ended up rushing 11 times for 61 yards and a TD. So that's the thing only the Patriots can do. Rodgers, he played okay, but he can't do it by himself. And I think that McCarthy's time in Green Bay is definitely numbered.
Yeah, for sure. I've kind of been saying that the last couple of years that, just never been a big fan of McCarthy. I just don't think he can, or he's getting it done with the talent that he has, which really the only talent that they have at this point is Rodgers. But I think it's kind of, his fault for not trying to get somebody in there, trying to sign some more players or trade for more players to get some talent around Rodgers. But, yeah, all in all, kind of just kind of a dominant performance by New England. Obviously, the score wasn't too spread, but I don't think that they were really ever in danger of losing that one. And then, the Patriots just keep on rolling. Plus, they're getting the running back, Sony Michel, back next week. So they're just going to stay just as hot as they are now. Look out the rest of the AFC.
Yeah, that's for sure. And I don't know, I can't even tell you half these receivers. Outside of Jimmy Graham and Devontae Adams, he's throwing to some guy named Valdez Scantling, and he's getting 100 yards. So I don't know who these receivers are, but Rodgers is still doing okay with them. I do think that I don't think Brady really outplayed Rodgers as much as the score says it would. I do think it was more of a Belichick out-coaching McCarthy type of thing, just with the way the Patriots ran the ball and were able to get players in good positions, not to mention that great pass from Edelman to James White down the sideline. Real quick before we get into our predictions, I did just get a notification that the Saints are negotiating with Dez Bryant. How do you think that affects the Saints' season going forward?
I don't think it will drastically affect them either way. I think he's going to be probably used in a small amount of snaps and probably just a lot of red zone situations where they just want that that big target for Brees to throw it to, put it where he can get it and nobody else can. So I definitely think it'll help their red zone efficiency, but probably not much else.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I think that the Saints have been struggling for a number 2 wide receiver all season. Obviously, they have Michael Thomas and Kamara, and they can carry a big load. And they also got Benjamin Watson. But, outside of all them, after Ted Ginn went down, they've been really struggling to find that receiver. And I think Dez can do a pretty good job filling in that role. I've been saying all season that someone should sign Dez that needs some sort of slot receiver. I don't know if you remember Colston that used to play with him. I think he's going to kind of use in that role, that taller, slower, but he could still catch the ball type. So if it does really happen, obviously Saints are a pretty smart organization, so they'll definitely find a spot for him on the field and how to get him in a good situation. But, let's keep talking about the Saints. They're traveling to Cincinnati this week. So who do you got in this game and why?
So I'm going to go ahead and, keep rolling with the Saints. Obviously, 7 straight. Another tough matchup. I think, they traveled to Baltimore and then to Minnesota, won both of those games, and then came home against the Rams, and now they got to go back on the road against, a very good Bengals team. But I think that they're going to come out on top yet again. I think it'll be a pretty close game, maybe something like 31-28 or 31-24 or something like that. But I think ultimately, with all the weapons that the Saints have, they're going to kind of overpower the Bengals. And I believe that A.J. Green went out last week. I think he's going to be out again this week. So obviously limited a little bit on offense on that end.
Yeah, for all the points you just said, I'm going with the Saints by a score of 31-17. A.J. Green, he's a big part of that offense. Andy Dalton's just not good enough to carry one by himself, especially without his number one wide receiver. I'm sure Mixon will have a good day. They'll definitely be leaning on him. But I just think, all in all, New Orleans has just been showing every defense that their offense is too good, too much talent on that side of the ball. And I think, it might start out a little slow, but I think after that second half, New Orleans is just going to run away with that one. So let's go to the team that New Orleans beat. They got another tough game this week with Seattle coming to town. Seattle's had that tough loss to the Chargers. Rams took that tough loss in New Orleans. So who do you got in this game and why?
That's going to be kind of a big game if the Seahawks do hope to make a playoff run and try to sneak in there as like a wild card slot. But I really just don't see them doing it in LA. I just don't think they have the talent to match up against that Rams team. I think it'll be somewhat close, but probably something like maybe 17-28, 17-31, something like that. I really don't see the Seahawks pulling that one off, unfortunately. Russell Wilson's going to do what he has to, but ultimately it just won't be enough.
Ultimately, yeah, I do agree with you. I got the Rams here by a score of 24-21. They did play once before in Seattle, and the Rams ended up pulling that game out 33-31. So even though earlier in the season when the Rams offense might not have been fine-tuned, the Rams are still able to pull that one out. It's a divisional game, so I don't think it's going to be easy, but I think all in all, the Rams, like you said, it's going to be too much, and they're going to be motivated after that loss in New Orleans. So let's go to a team that, they definitely has not been having the same luck as the Rams this season. The Dallas Cowboys, they're traveling to Philadelphia this week. That's going to be a big game. Cowboys are still somewhat in playoff contention. They're coming off that tough Monday night loss to the Titans, while Philly, they've been playing pretty well. They're coming off a bye week. They got Golden Tate. So who do you got in this game and why?
So I'm going to kind of go with the completely lost what I was about to say there, but I'm going to go with Philly yet again. I think their talent's just going to keep on taking them rolling. The super talented defense and then the offense has just gotten better with the bye week. The acquisition of Golden Tate. And then just on the other side of the ball, the Cowboys just haven't looked very good. Zeke hasn't been as good, as the last couple of seasons. I think, defenses are starting to finally figure him out. And he's been kind of limited on the ground. They did pick up Amari Cooper, and he had a touchdown for him against the Titans last night. But ultimately, I just don't think that they have what it takes to go into Philly and pull out a victory there.
Yeah, I'm not trying to ride your coattails here, but I got to agree with you. I think we were talking about Philly earlier. We both see them as a contender. And Dallas, they haven't looked good. I think Dallas is not going to turn this team around until Jason Garrett's out of that position of head coach. I think they need a new voice. I think they need a new offensive coordinator. I think they need someone else to run that offense when they have so much talent on that side of the ball. With Dak and Elliott, you should be destroying teams. I could only imagine if you gave McVay the same talent, what you do with it. So obviously every coach is not McVay, but Jason Garrett's he's been there too long. He's been there. He's just got to do something. So, yeah, that definitely might be coaching him for his job type of game, but I think Philly's going to end up pulling that one out pretty convincingly by about a score of 24-14. So the next game I want to talk about is Detroit at Chicago. This is the first time that we actually can get to see Chicago this season, and Chicago's been playing pretty well of late, and, as we talked previously, Detroit has not. I hate to do this, but I'm going to take Chicago in this game. I just think their defense, we just gave up 10 sacks to that Vikings defense. I can't only imagine what Khalil Mack and the rest of this Bears defense is going to do to Stafford this week. I think they're going to end up pulling out a close one. It is a divisional match, so I don't see it getting blown out of the water too bad. I'm going to take the Bears by a score of 21-17. Who do you got, Kyle?
Really tough one. This is honestly probably just the Lions fan in me. But I really do think that the Lions have a better shot against Chicago this week than they did against the Vikings last week. Obviously, that defense is scary, and I think Stafford's going to be in a lot of trouble if we can't patch those O-line issues that we had last week. But I think our defense can get at Trubisky. I think we can force some turnovers, and I think ultimately Stafford can, kind of lead us to a win. Obviously, you mentioned it before, playing Theo Riddick a lot more, getting him a lot more touches, and I think he's a player that can definitely make plays and get our offense kind of rolling. So I think it's going to be a close one, probably like 24-17, something like that. But I do think the Lions can go to Chicago and eke out a win this week.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I really hope I'm wrong on that one. I would never be happier to be wrong about a prediction, but I don't know if we're capable after last week, last couple weeks. We just haven't been playing well, and Chicago has. But so the last game I want to talk about for next week is a Thursday night game. This is a game I'm probably most excited. I think we're going to learn a lot about both these teams. It's Carolina at Pittsburgh. Carolina's been on a roll lately. I think a lot of people are finally recognizing them one of the top tier teams. Like I said last week, I think they're right there after the Saints and the Rams. I think they're that next team right now. So I think I'm going to take Carolina heading into Pittsburgh. I know Pittsburgh have been on quite a bit of a hot streak, but I really like what I've been seeing out of this Carolina team. They've been running the ball effectively. Cam Newton's been doing his thing, and they finally look like they have some playmakers at receiver. I think it's going to be a good one. I think it's going to be a close one. I'm going to take Carolina by a score of 30-27. Who do you got?
This is another really tough one. I think probably, like you mentioned, the best game this week. I kind of go back and forth on this one just because I do like the Steelers, and I obviously coming to like the Panthers. I wasn't a big believer in them in the early parts of the season, and I think I picked against them every single time, and I've been wrong every single time. So ultimately, I think I'm going to go ahead and go with the Steelers, more or less just because of that home field advantage. Going up to Pittsburgh is probably not going to be the warmest game up in Pennsylvania. And then beyond that, I think James Conner is going to keep on running the ball. I think Antonio Brown's going to make some plays, and they're ultimately going to overcome Cam and McCaffrey. I think it's going to be a really close game, probably something like 38, maybe 35. I think a lot of offense in this one, but I think the Steelers are going to take it.
Yeah, and, regardless of who wins, I just want some good football. Looking through some of these games, it'll look like the best game, but that Carolina-Pittsburgh game Thursday night, I'm definitely looking forward to that one. I'm looking forward to the rest of the games, too, but, I think we're finally getting to the point of the season where the playoffs are starting to shape up, and I think it's that finally time for that final push into the playoffs, and I'm excited for it. I'm excited to see what kind of things are going to happen. But I think that's all we have for you guys next week. Thank you, Kyle, for joining me. And thank you guys so much for listening. Until next week, this has been Turnover on Downs.